No, ladies and gentlemen, you're not seeing double. I'm back here for good reasons, for the second time here today, because our guest very well may be figuratively and literally the big man of DBW. And he has been a huge part of things in our very good friends over at Dominating Breakout Wrestling over these past several months. And some recent guests have had a lot to say about this man, as this man actually a big spoiler, you might want to say, in a recent match in Danger Zone. And we're going to talk about it here as we're going to go into the Danger Zone. And hopefully we don't go on this guy's Danger Zone here, to say the least. He needs no further introduction. But because he is the big man of DBW, and many of his peers, many of his opponents have certainly got that introduction that everybody else gets, we have to give him that introduction because it's also his first time here on Sportswire Radio, and we get to now share in his experience. So with that, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show from DBW, Dominating Breakout Wrestling. They call him the big man of DBW. His name is Big Tex. My friend, how you doing?
Good, good, good. I'm finally glad to be on here. Glad to finally be able to tell people what my feelings are.
Okay, well, certainly I'm looking forward to that. And I gotta say, by the way, I'm impressed with the background there. I almost think, are you trying out to be a slugger this year for the Mets, the Yankees, the Cardinals, the Orioles, the Phillies? Because you look like you got a background here. It's almost like maybe you're getting ready to take some wood off and maybe make a baseball bat or something. We know you're a big slugger in DBW. It's certainly an
I
interesting background there.
yeah, kind of a maybe a kind of more Western theme, but who knows? I might chop this up and maybe go sling some bats and everything like that. Who knows?
You never know. Listen, never say never. But obviously, as people are starting to tune in here, I could ask you a lot about some recent opponents, some recent people that have come on this show. Sure, you've probably seen it, heard it, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a little while. But I'm curious because we really haven't seen that much of you in DBW. A lot of the people that have come on the show, they have an extensive background. They've either been champions here, hold championships here, have been around in different places in the world of wrestling, but kind of in a way, since we've only seen you for a short time, Big Tex, I was wondering for not only Dominating Breakout Wrestling fans, but also for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, how did you get into pro wrestling and how did you become this big man that we've seen now of late become a big factor in DBW?
Well, it's funny. It's kind of a two-way path for me.
Yeah.
Part of it, the whole character development, I'll get into in a few minutes. But for me personally, it started back in around 2014, 2015. Um, met what my best friend, um, one of my best friends, and a man I call a brother, David Stowe, or otherwise as you would know, Jackson Stowe.
Yes, yes, yes. We know him very well.
Um, yes. He had his own company that he ran called TWA, Total Wrestling Annihilation. Toward the end, um, I was a fan to start off with. I would show up to the shows, be there, show my support for them because they were all good buddies of mine, and I would be there to help support them, everything like that. Years went on, started getting more involved with it. I started doing commentary and then ring announcing. A few years passed, some stuff went on. We eventually opened up to RCW.
Okay.
And a lot of the people that wrestle for DBW wrestled for RCW. So Ego, the Heretics, Mr. Judgment was up there, Cyrus, a lot of the people that
I
been
think
on.
I'm thinking Mr. Judgment you mentioned. I'm sure Mr. Wakefield. I'm sure was a part of that as well.
Wake,
Yep.
Wakefield was up there for a
Scorpion the
show.
Assassin, if I'm not mistaken, was
Yeah,
a part of that. Yep.
yes, Scorpion. A lot of the guys that did wrestle for DVW were they come up to wrestle for RCW,
Sure.
and again, and a lot of the and again another company ran by Jackson and another good brother of mine, Zach DePew.
Yes. No, Zach very well. Sure.
Wrestling's greatest asset. But for me, they're the ones that gave me the opportunity back in RCW to really get in the ring and show that I haven't just been doing this stuff on the side. I've been watching what people do in the ring. For me, I got very little training for myself, and a lot of it was all tape setting and then practicing it in the ring for so much when no one was either doing anything or just doing it on my own. So,
But I find that fascinating for a second. If you don't mind, let me cut in for a second, as people I know will certainly tune in and will certainly, I'm sure, get into this. But I look at you, right? We've seen you on TV. You're this big man. You got this imposing presence. But you mean to tell me only until recently, despite being involved in some form in these different wrestling feds over 8, 9 years, that you never said, "Hey, you know what? I want to throw my weight around. I want to go out there and kick some butt." You're telling me that it only took you until recently to kind of go out there and get the gumption to be in a place like DBW? I mean, you have to tell me about that, sir.
so really for me, it was more the fact of trying to get out of a shell personally. It was more of the shell for me was my self, my weight, and being out there in front of people, being as big as I
Mm.
am, and being afraid of messing up, and just it's basically a lot of self doubt for myself. Like,
But I
can I
would think with
actually
your
do this?
size, sir, I would think with your size, your ability, that you would be having no problem willing to throw that around in a sport where guys like you certainly succeed and are automatically at the top of the food chain. I mean, talk to me about that.
You would think like someone like my size would yes be at the top of the food chain, but for me personally, it's a lot more of a mental thing from
Mm.
than it is a physical thing for myself. Like, and I'll even spill the beans here. Before I even came on here, I had nerves all the way up from 7:30 up until I got on here.
Hey, all right, all right. You tell me about that, but I always try to make a joke of this. If anybody that embarrasses themselves each and every time they're on Sportswire, it's yours truly, because people actually comment and they say, "Oh well, your hair looks like this today, or your hair looks like that," and well, what are you wearing this time? People will look at, "Oh well, the lights look like this way." So if anybody, sir, that should be embarrassed, it's yours truly. And I've been doing this for 5 years. So I'm just saying, I'm trying to make it ease.
Uh, I understand, but a lot of that with my nervousness and being on camera and everything like that comes from an early age of being bullied for loving wrestling.
Oh, you bullied.
Con-
Interesting.
I was very much bullied for loving wrestling and everything like that, so I really much kept it a secret growing up and everything like that until I got to about high school, stuff like that, and then I finally was like, okay, you know what? I'm tired of this. I like wrestling. You don't like me? Okay. So what?
But what were they saying?
So
What were these? I guess you
it
could
was
say.
more
Yeah.
it was more fat jokes like it was um fatso and all this and it's like, you know what? Call me what you want. I don't care anymore. I'm gonna use this to my advantage and now I'm proving it when I'm in DBW. I'm proving these haters wrong every time I step into that ring.
So do you have and I'll get to comments in a second. I want to say hello to everybody tuning in. I promise you, I'm going to get to you. But do you then feel like, in addition to trying your opponents or certainly prove them wrong, but do you have extra motivation of kind of your childhood and the people that were in your ear, maybe saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you a wrestling fan? You don't belong out there," and those different things that you heard. So, are you kind of in a way motivated by your upbringings to kind of prove those people wrong? To say, "Hey, look at me now. Here I am, and this is what I'm going to do."
Oh, definitely. My childhood has everything to do with what I do in the ring now. A lot of it is inspired by what I watch, but a lot of it is like, you know what? I'm going to use my weight to my advantage. I'm going to prove you wrong, and here's how I'm going to do it.
Interesting. Well, certainly, I have no doubt, though, I'm still skeptical that you certainly did get bullied. But hey, what do I know, right? But obviously, let me get to some comments here. Because again, you are a big man. Now, certainly, we've said some things about you by some of your opponents and that have come on the show. But it's certainly one thing that you have been bullied. Like, I'm still skeptical about it. But hey, it's your upbringing, not mine. What am I to judge? Who am I to know? But let me say hello to some people. We love big text with exclamation points. We certainly get that from our friend Taylor Mortar. I apologize if I got the name wrong. Speaking of our new World Extreme Champion, you mentioned Mr. Snow. And Mr. Snow says, keep up the awesome work, bud. You've come a long way in 2 years this month, and just the overall improvement month in and out have been absolutely amazing. Can't wait to see what 2024 brings for you in this industry, he says. Now, let me ask you a follow up. Since you mentioned Mr. Snow, and obviously Mr. Snow
Hmm.
certainly made a huge statement at the Danger Zone. Now, maybe I'll ask you about Ego since you mentioned them. So, in terms of your career, and you mentioned Mr. Snow back from all
Hmm.
those years ago, talk about what he has meant to you on a personal level inside and outside the ring.
Honestly, he to me is a mentor. I almost consider him my trainer. I consider him. He's taught me a lot of the ups and downs of this business. He's taught me a lot of a lot of stuff to do as a big man. He's taught me a lot of things to do right in this business, and I can't thank him enough for that. A lot of people I have thanked over and over again for giving me opportunities, but him and Zach Depew are the two big supporters that I've had since I started wrestling. And for them to give me that opportunity was gracious enough for them to allow me to do it, but for them to allow me to tag along and go to these places like DVW and continue to wrestle is beyond brotherhood to me. They're like a second family at this point for myself.
Well, that's certainly high praise, and I could certainly see why. And in the meantime, want to plug your social media out there, so I will certainly come back to some of that. I do also want to get to some more comments. Also, let's go back to this person. I am Big Tech's #1 fan. So you got fans already. So obviously, didn't seem like
Yes.
I'm still skeptical about you being bullied because you got fans in here. They're here left and right. And I'm going to get to somebody else who specifically sent a comment towards you, who I'm going to mention because I kind of like him. But first of all, let me get to Mr. Depew. Love you, brother. Keep your head up, my man. Always got a fan in me. Love miles upon miles traveled. Wouldn't want to do it with everyone else or anyone else. And what has Zachary Depew then meant to you specifically since I have his comment before I get to somebody in ring before we go back on this journey for a bit?
He's one of the ones that I can talk wrestling with over and over again. He he's always there whenever I need to listen, whenever I need to talk to him about something. No matter if it's I message him 4 hours and he just reads it later on, and then we just go back and forth with each other, or it's at one of the shows. We're always talking, and even like he said, on the long miles that we've had to some places, we are always talking about wrestling. We're always talking about life, and I wouldn't travel with anyone else. I wouldn't want to do this with any other two people, but those two being Jackson and Zach.
Well, I could certainly see why, and I could obviously would love to have those guys on at some point here. So certainly, if you're out there, I'd love to talk with you, especially Mr. Snow, since he did do a number on Mr. Havoc and Mr. Ego, which I'll certainly get to them. But Big Tex, you're amazing, brother. definitely agree with the Steven with the dog icon. The dog icon's kind of funny. And Mr. Snow wants to also say, I know this is the Jackson account, but out of character here, you've got a good group behind you. Very nice words. For a man like this, our current World Extreme Champion, to come out of character there. He don't do that for nothing. He ain't gonna do that for Mr. Havoc. I guarantee you that much. He ain't gonna do that for Mr. Colin Graves or Mr. AJ. But he also says, easy, that's a hefty price to have me on your show. Well, I'm just going to say this real quick before I get to Mr. Taft. I will remind you, sir, that I just did have on a guy, Dean Allmark, who was in Impact Wrestling earlier today and has wrestled in France, Italy, Japan, and holds not one, but two victories over some guy, Brian Danielson, and also a victory over a guy,
Ooh,
Thunder Liger. So, I mean, we love you, respect you, but just want to make sure that if you want to come on, the price really to pay would be a two-way street. But that's here nor there. But let me come back. I got more comments, and I want to go specifically, and I want to get back on this journey, but just in a taste of what's to come later on. I want to get to Mr. T3 himself, Mr. Thomas Taft, because sir, you did a number on him in his match against Mr. Graves, Mr. Corey Graves, and obviously we spoke a lot about that with Mr. Taft, and I spoke last week with the Stompers about that, and he does say, much love and respect for Big Tex. You, my brother, exceeded my own expectations. Lose Graves and that Chaos crew, and we can go places. I know we'll touch upon this a little more in a little while, but I mean, I was kind of thinking the same thing, though, and a taste of what's to come later on, because, Mr. Graves hadn't won a match this entire year. I mean, he had been a champion in this company before. He had been a World Extreme Champion, sure, but that was in the past. This year, I mean, he had a losing streak probably bigger than The Miz, probably bigger than the Heath Slater had years ago, maybe even bigger than the Brooklyn Brawler, or maybe even Barry Horowitz did years ago. We can go up and down the list of guys who had losing streaks, and yet you decided you wanted to help Mr. Graves. So is that a decision you still stand by?
I do. I do
Okay.
stand beside. I do stand beside it. If you didn't catch the end of the match at Danger Zone, I did one thing. I took this hat that I have here and I placed it upon Corey's head.
Yes, I did
If
see
you
that.
don't know in Western terms what that actually means, that's brotherhood and respect when you give someone your hat like that. Yes, me and Corey went through our battle at Double Cross. We did that for a reason. That was to earn each other's respect. And yes, it took me until Danger Zone to finally let him have that. But in the end, brotherhood and respect is what this is all about for me. I do this because no one wants to see what happens if people decide to turn on me. There is an evil side to this whole lovable person here. That evil side does has never been unleashed yet, and I fear for the person that does unleash it.
Are you saying then that Mr. Taft felt a little bit of that? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
He might have got a little glimpse of what it was, but that was only maybe 25% of what the true big man of DBW can do.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. And while I get to more comments here, I also want to make sure that people follow you on some social media platforms, including Instagram and YouTube at Stone Cold 4215. Also, Twitter at Wild Man Cult. You're going to definitely find out why this guy very well could be the big man of DBW. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, and the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. For whatever reason, I don't know why I keep putting up my fingers all the time on recent shows. I think I'm going like this way and that way, but it's kind of been that theme. I'm going with it because it's just one of those days. But I also want to say hello to more people. I want to say hello to the lovely. Speaking of people that could be like the Maurice to my Miz, that could be Mrs. Zena. She says hello. She packs a pretty mean a Glock, by the way. She packs a mean. So she Definitely packs. You pack the punches. She packs the Glocks there. But she says hello. And let me get to some more comments here. Also, we have here Jackson is a punk. No one likes him. Stone versus Snow. Well, you're focused, I think, on some other things. I'll let Mr. Snow focus on maybe Mr. Havoc and the other Graves and certainly the other James and what's left of Ego. But I am getting texts for Snow question marks. Maybe we'll get into that. T3 versus Big Tex question marks. We need it. Yeah, I would say possibly. Going to come back to that. But let me come to somebody that you just addressed. Now, he simply is called himself Graves, kind of like, you know how Madonna goes by just being Madonna? I mean, but
Of course. Of
yeah, I
course.
kind of thought that'd be funny. Certainly, this is Mr. Corey Graves, and he says, Big Tex is going to do great things. It's easy to see. Now, do you want to say anything toward Mr. Graves now that we just touched upon him before we come back to this journey of who we are with Big Tex? So, anything that you want to say toward him?
Graves knows my feelings, and the feelings are mutual. What at Danger Zone, I saw a different side to him, and that was all I will say. Ever since he paired up with me, I see a different side with him, and I love it.
You do.
I love it.
You're not concerned that in any way he might be using you for himself to get back on the top? Does that concern you at all? You don't see that?
And that is the one thing I was for someone to bring up.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Corey is using me.
Well, the Stompers were here last week on the show, and they were kind of basically saying that. I mean, we were speaking about it on the air, and, you know, the Stompers
Between T3, Jackson Saber, and the Stompers.
Yeah.
I mean, you all have something to say.
They do.
I'm not that hard to find in the locker room. Come and find me. We could talk it out. I'll hear your feelings, and then you can hear mine. But right now, my feelings right now, yes, Graves is with me. I helped him bring out that aggression that he needed again. Ever since World War, when he had my back, helping fight off high power.
True, and they certainly did a number to you, by the way. Certainly Mr. Taft, Mr. Blanco, Mr. Blade, at the end of that match, I mean, they certainly did lay you out. I mean, they put you on your back, sir.
Yes. However, if you watch, Graves never left my side. He could have ran away to the back, but yet he stood by my side, even with me getting attacked.
Okay.
Yes, he could have got in, but yet he chose me to let me fight it out on my own because he knows that I am a big man. He knows that I could take so much more punishment than what normal people can.
Well, I'm going to come back to that because there's a lot I want to talk about high power, Jackson Saber, certainly Chaos Conspiracy, the Stompers. I want to get into a lot of that. There's a lot to talk about there. Let me get into some more comments. Yay, Big Tex, exclamation points. You have fans. Go you. At the end of the day, you'll still be at the bottom as long as I'm around. And that is our global champ, primed and poised, bigger and better than ever. And you've spoke a lot about him on prior shows in the comments. He is here.
I have.
Factor, and he's writing chapter 2. And I have a feeling that chapter 2 is going to be more successful than chapter 1. And what do you want to say that now that you're in his chair that he was in here a couple times on Sportswire? What do you want to say to him, sir?
Cyrus, I said it to High Power, I said it to Jackson Saber, and I'll say it to you. I'm not that hard of a person to find. You want to fight, you can fight me. I don't care. Heck, you want to put the global title on the line? I'll take that global title and then hold it for a longer time than you or family member of yours can hold it.
Oh, that nephew. Yeah, I heard of that nephew. Yeah. Mr. Carnage. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll hold it longer than both of you combined so far. I have no problem doing that. So just name the time and the place and put that title on the line, and I'll just take it from you.
Do you think that maybe Mr. Cyrus should maybe knock on the the door, the shower curtain, whatever you guys have in that DBW locker room out there? I mean, do you think that maybe you guys should introduce yourselves to each other? I mean, do you think that that would be a
He
good
kn-
idea? Yeah.
he knows where I am. He normally can find me. I'm normally in the locker room listening to music. All he has to do is come up and find me.
But what do you listen to, by the way? What kind of music do you
I'm
listen to?
more. It depends on my mood, really.
So what what
Um,
what, what have you been up to recently? Because you're a big man, you certainly pulled a number on Mr. T3. I mean, what have you been listening to right now? I mean, the lovely Zeno wants to know. I mean, the inquiring mind
um,
wants to
right,
know.
right now, it's been, um, surprisingly Hollywood Undead and some Slipknot.
You know what? I would have never guessed that you're a Hollywood Undead and Slipknot guy. I would never have really guessed that because speaking of
Nope.
people in Iowa that are Slipknot fans, is a guy here, Omen Black, and he seems to have this kind of, I guess, friction relationship with DBW and some in that locker room. So kind of interesting you said that. But let me get to some more comments here because a lot of people want to talk to you. My guest from yesterday, Pete Corvus, will destroy you. I think that's just somebody saying hello. Appreciate that. Thank you for
Uh,
listening. Yeah. Tex beat me at Danger Zone, not Graves. This is over for now, but elevation is upon you both. There you go, high power. Can't miss him. And then obviously your compadre, your new buddy here, Mr. Corey Graves, said Stompers always running their mouths. They're scared of us. I really do want to get into your journey, but people are just popping in. I almost have to ask you. So,
yeah.
the Stompers, though, we heard a lot from Richie Blanco and Rob Blade last week on the show. But haven't they earned the right, though, to run their mouths? Because they were the DBW tag team champions not too long ago. They've been
Oh,
champions in a number of promotions. It's not like you're dealing with Chaos Conspiracy. You're not like you're dealing with a Johnny Come Lately, New Kids on the Block team. These guys have held gold, and they've been very reputable over these past several years in the tag team divisions, wherever they've been.
oh, no doubt in my mind. I have all the respect in the world for the Stompers. It's more the fact that them aligning themselves with T3 and showing this much more aggressive side all of a sudden that hasn't been seen in who knows how long. Why all of a sudden? Yeah,
Why
T3
not, though?
said,
I mean, but why not, though? I mean, the Heretics are the tag team champions. I mean, they took them back from Ego. I mean, Ego was trying to do it the right way, and, well, they don't have much of an ego these days because they've really got nothing to show for it. So, I mean, Cyrus has got this basically, I would say, new attitude. He would say it's the same old Cyrus, but, I mean, he's also got a little bit of a pep in his step. Mr. Judgment's got certainly that same kind of way he goes about things. I mean, so why not what the Stompers are going about it this way? Just why not? I mean, I might ask.
let me put it to this way.
Okay.
Every person that has the quote unquote ego of a higher power, however you want to put it, Cyrus, Judgment, the Heretics, however,
Divinity. Yeah.
eventually that high top is going to come crumbling down. And who knows when that's going to happen. And that crumbling down is going to be a hard fall and a hard pill to swallow if it comes from someone like me or even someone newer.
Interesting. Hadn't thought about it that way. But before I get to some more comments, that's also why I'd like people to follow Dominating Breakout Wrestling. You can follow them on a number of different platforms here. You can do that here on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, Dominating Backyard Wrestling on Facebook, DBW Wrestling on Twitter as well. So make sure you follow Dominant Breakout Wrestling. And by the way, almost 3,500 subscribers on YouTube. When I first started covering you guys, you were at 3,000 subscribers. So now I'm not good at most things. I can't count. I probably can't tie my shoes at this point. But it sounds to me like we've got almost 20% added subscribers since you guys have been working with Sportswire. So it tells me if we went from 3,000 to almost 3,500, it seems like clearly if you haven't yet, go and follow DBW because after what we saw with Danger Zone, we know Thursday Night Thunder Punch shows. There's certainly going to be a lot to get into there. You want to join DBW on this journey. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. If you like what you hear from us here on Sportswire Radio, please give us a like and follow out there on a number of different platforms, including on our YouTube page at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams, where you can watch past, present, and future DBW shows. If you want to listen to our content, you can listen to us anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on sportswireradio.org via the Listen Live button. If you don't want to see the long hair, the mutton chops, my mug shot, you can always just listen to us there via the Listen Live button. And if you have a podcast out there, if you want to play live music, if you want to get involved and put your thoughts out there, you can always anytime get in touch with me, because we have an internet radio station that plays worldwide. And if you want to hear yourself out there, I take care of all the engineering, all the maintenance. I take care of all the charges. So if you want to get out there and join the discussion, join the conversation, you're welcome anytime on sportswireradio.org. And also check us out on our brand new blog out there as well. We have a brand new blog where we've talked about DBW and other companies. We're on Tumblr at Sportswire Radio, and I'll be back here tomorrow afternoon, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, with the play-by-play man for XCW, Mr. Blackheart himself, who was the 2022 XCW Wrestler of the Year. He's going to be back to talk the fallout from last week's Final Chapter show. He's going to talk about the final chapter that took place in his career at SummerMania a few months ago, plus much, much more in XCW. So you will not want to miss what Blackheart has to say, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube page of Sportswire Radio and also sportswireradio.org. But we are here right now with the big man, the self-proclaimed big man of DBW, and his name is Mr. Big Tex, and I have a lot more comments, so let me get to them before I ask you some more questions, sir. So, Tex versus T3, no contest. Tex would beat T3 and then make Thaddeus a necklace. Well, I guess you went to shop class, huh? Not Thaddeus as a medallion, okay. And Xena says she wants to help tie my shoes. Well, if you want my address, you're welcome to come over anytime. The door is wide open, but I don't think that the ladies are going to take that, especially that lady, especially somebody who carries a Glock, as she says. So I don't think that's going to work in my favor. But speaking of people's favors here, Omen Black is in the house, and he's got a show coming up next Saturday called the IMF Winter Clash. And he's going back and forth with Cyrus. And he also says that you're his man, and he seems to like you. So I guess you and Omen, by the way, it's his show on Sportswire, you seem to have, some type of respect. He did say that on his show that you were on last Friday, and he certainly has some kind words for you. I guess the big men kind of see eye for an eye, almost that kind of thing that you and Omen, the eye for an eye.
Yeah. I watched Omen. I've watched a lot. I've watched a couple of his matches recently, and I'll give him the respect that he deserves.
He does deserve respect. He's a big man too. I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to respect a big man. He's got size, he's got strength, and he goes out and wrestles in these matches that are like, I don't know how this guy does it. I mean, I'd be breaking the fourth wall here. I mean, I don't know how the guy goes out there and puts his body on the line the way he does. In fact, there was one guy in another state in Wisconsin who basically was a champion for 547 days, basically a self-anointed champion, and basically he ducked him for like a year because he knew that he basically didn't want the wrath of this guy Omen because of kind of how he conducts himself. Just saying.
Well, I know, speaking of Omen Black and what he does, I know one of your future guests, Hardcore, I've actually got to meet.
Yes, I have Hardcore coming on, I think, next week, and we have Jimmy Controversy Friday. What a small world. Boy, you know Hardcore, huh?
I do know Hardcore.
Ooh, interesting there.
Yeah, Hardcore, I actually got to wrestle. I wouldn't necessarily say wrestle him, but I actually got to wrestle kind of the same promotion as him, the one for a couple times, and super nice guy.
I think he's done the rounds, if I'm not mistaken, where Cyrus and Scorpion the Assassin have wrestled upstate, up in that Rochester area, up in there, maybe a little bit further up toward the Canadian border. So that would make sense. Because in those circuits there, sure.
Yeah, and super nice dude.
I spoke to him off the air a number of times. Great guy.
The things that man puts his body through is truly insane.
It's funny that you said that, and we will get back to more DBW coverage in a second. I really do want to get into a lot with you, but one of my
Mhm.
buddies is a filmmaker. I'm kind of breaking the fourth wall here. His name is Luke Leyland. He's a big fan of Sportswire. He watches DBW, and he's in England. He was a former wrestler trained by my guest Tuesday's show, which would be now Wednesday UK time. Mr. Dean Allmark, a living legend, and he was the one that told me first, Tom, you got to get this guy Hardcore on. This guy, I'm telling you, check him out. And I watched him, and I'm like, wow. And then it turns out, like a month later, he's friends with like 25 people I know. Then I'm like, hey, somebody told me to get in touch with you. And Hardcore goes, yeah, your friend Luke Leyland, the ex-wrestler. And he's like, when am I coming on? And we've been trying to, we've been going back and forth since. But yeah, Hardcore is, what this guy has done, he's put himself through glass and obviously the light tubes, can't forget about those. And, I think even refrigerators and air conditioners. This guy is like, he's better than a stuntman. Listen, John Wick has nothing on Hardcore, by the way.
No. And I follow him personally, so I see a lot of the stuff that he does. The stuff that he makes just randomly that comes to his head, I don't know how he comes up with it.
Me either. And I'm going to ask him about that. And I'm going to, first of all, ask Friday, 4:30 p.m., Jimmy Controversy, that same question, because Jimmy's got the lucky number to have him in the ring January the 6th at the North Haven Massacre for the TF crew. So I'm going to definitely get into that here. But let me get to loads of comments here. Omen's going back and forth with Cyrus. Cyrus, you smell like worms. Well, we are a family station on Sportswire, so certainly I'm going to plead the fifth on that. So I will certainly leave that to the peanut gallery, as some would say. But obviously, my guest last month, Mr. Robert Pearson himself, says, big effing Tex. What's up, brother? Keep it #too damn good. I'm definitely going to get to a lot of them. I just want to read off these comments here real quick. Big Tex, I got to run, but keep up the good work. I'm a fan, truly. Coming from Omen, big words
Wow.
there. Follow. Yeah, Omen doesn't really give out that kind of praise there. So follow him on YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666 and make sure you support them. Also, Cyrus says, here comes Omen Black, the one-trick pony. Just like Tex is a one-trick pony as well. Maybe both of your abilities combined can actually compete on my level. Tex, I'll easily give you a shot. You'll just fall like everyone else has. Funny, this man waits till I leave, then messages back. And I get told from friends in the comments. Cyrus, I'll be seeing you soon. Believe that. And good evening, Tom. And I have more comments here. A lot of people here. Speaking of our champion here, speaking of obviously our prophet of purgatory is Mr. Judgment, Insignificant Whelp. And my guest from 2 weeks ago, Mr. Jackson Saber, says, what's up, Tex? Have you thought any more about what I told you during my interview? And speaking of other people, boy, what did you did you set off an alarm to get all these people? Because now, I was going to ask you about you, and I got the whole locker room here left and right basically wanting to go up in your grill, and including the Stompers, my guys, the Stompers from last week's show. I mean, are you comfortable in this kind of firing round? I know you got the cowboy hat. I know you're obviously kind of a Midwest guy, but you're getting the firing rounds here, sir.
That's nothing I haven't handled before.
Yeah.
Saber, I have thought about it, and this is a family show, so what I want to say, I can't say.
Yeah, we are a family show because we do have an internet radio dial, and I really do.
Exactly. So the stuff that I want to say, I can't say.
I have survived for 5 years in doing this, and people like to come on my program is I do at least most of the time try to at least keep that family guideline there.
Exactly. So don't worry about that. Saber, just know what I want to say, I can't say.
So I'll do something for you. I'll make it nice and simple for you. Are you saying he's kind of like a saber-toothed tiger, like on Power Rangers, or maybe less than that?
He's more of a kitten with bad teeth, basically.
Ooh. That might be me in about a year or two after all the big gulps I drink. But hey, but at least I can afford new teeth. But that's here nor there. But let's move on. Mr. Cyrus says the final boss has arrived. You know what? I actually do want to talk about the final boss for a second. Kind of a slight detour. Obviously, though, Mr. Judgment, now you might be the big man of DBW, but he might be the big man of this entire sport right now because the run that he's been on, after what he did to the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, even what he did to his better half, his lovely fiance. And we saw what he did to his family, his own seed, and the Blaze Ace Christian, the run that the Prophet of Purgatory has been on, the final boss. Mr. Judgment has been on. I mean, what's your thoughts on him being the DBW champion? Arguably, I would say the most dominating champion, basically, no pun intended, in this entire sport.
Man's been on a heck of a run since winning the title. However, there is a however in this whole thing.
Yeah.
What happens when that starts to decline? What happens when the Prophet eventually has to face someone his own strengths, if not stronger than him, or even bigger?
But wouldn't you say, though, that he's been used to and comfortable in these spots? I mean, he seems to be good in the clutch. I mean, he's one of these guys that rises to the occasion. He's almost like Tom Brady when Tom Brady had the ball when he was with the Patriots. Not so much with the Bucs after the first year, but definitely with the Patriots all those years. I mean, Judgment with the belt, I mean, he's unstoppable pretty much.
I'm going to take, as much as I don't like the team, I'm going to take a little bit of a playbook here.
All right.
Think of this as a Super Bowl, Philly versus New England. New England missing the brawl with Brady, and Philly winning. Eventually, that team that has been struggling for years eventually puts down the higher villain, shall I say, of either wrestling, in this case, the NFL with the Patriots.
Well, the Patriots have certainly been the biggest villains, I would dare say, in the world of professional sports. And the Philadelphia Eagles, well, I wouldn't say they're as much as a laughingstock as the New York Jets franchise. They had never won a Super Bowl, so that is a certainly.
I got respect for the Jets. I have respect for the Jets.
It's quite all right. I was actually trying to basically strengthen your cause, so don't feel too bad for me because my running line is the Jets don't even play in New York. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So for me, growing up, the Jets to me were like a foreign country. So, but that's here nor there.
And yet I'm a Commanders fan, so I know what it is.
Well, your franchise hasn't done too much good in your lifetime either. So, but they have had some good runs, but not so much. Let me get to some more comments here because there's a lot of people that want to talk. They all want a big piece of Big Tex. He loves this. He's going places in 2024. We love you, fam. DBW management, Tex versus everyone, 2024. Graves and Chaos part from the venue. Book it. Judgment may be the final boss, but we're the protagonist. Interesting. Okay, you know what? I'm going to come back to a lot of this. I want to come back to the stoppers. I really do. But I want to talk further about you on this journey becoming a wrestler after what you went through and maybe being behind the scenes, maybe doing the commentary, maybe just kind of seeing how the process kind of started and unfolded with obviously Jackson Snow. So was there a moment that clicked for you and said, you know what? Okay, this is the moment that I'm going to be a wrestler. This is the moment that I'm going to train. Is there a moment in your career where it all kind of clicked?
Honestly, it was back in RCW. The night of a Rumble, first show of the year. We just come off our first ever Rumble. We put out a 40-man Rumble.
Wow, that reminds me. In the UK, they did one of those, and then WWE did a 40-man years ago. So
40-man Rumble, and I'm on a couple matches beforehand. So, and I was starting off as a singles competitor. I'm like, okay, we kind of had the idea to put me into a tag team.
Right.
So this is where, and one of that, but I'm actually going to go back a little bit further because there was actually something else before that. Back when TWA was still around.
Yep, I know TWA.
Yes. So back when TWA was still around, one of the big matches was Jackson Snow versus an old friend of ours, Luke Knight. Pretty sure it was for the title. If not,
Jackson's
But it
here.
was in a
So he'll
scaffold.
correct. Yeah, Jackson will correct us.
Yeah,
He's here.
it was in a scaffold match,
Oh,
and the thing I remember distinctly is him climbing up that scaffolding and swantoning off of it through a table and just completely missing. But it's the pop that you hear whenever he jumps and lands, knowing that what he just did just pop the crowd no matter what happened, no matter the result, it gets that pop. And that's what kind of drives me also is no matter what I do, hit or miss in that ring, it's all about getting that crowd behind me, but
yeah, the
also the
adrenaline.
pop.
You know, I'm glad you said that because one of my friends is a guy, Vito Fratelli, who's number 390 in the PWI 500, and he's wrestled in front of 9,000 people. And he has told me on this platform here on multiple occasions that sometimes it doesn't matter on if you miss a move or if you win a match. If you're hearing that electricity from that crowd, whether it's 8 people or in Vito's case, 8,000 in Mexico, that's going to carry
Exactly.
you and it's going to click. That moment, it's going to like get you and
Exactly.
drive you.
Like even if you feel like your body hurts, you continue on because that crowd is just driving
I
and
just had
driving
Dean
and driving
on
you.
today, and Dean has wrestled, cheap pop, and you can watch that on my YouTube page. And I recommend every wrestler here that's in this chat to go watch my interview with Dean Allmark, who was in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling in 2004. It has defeated the likes of Brian Danielson and Juice and Thunder Liger. He's talked about the fact that a lot of times he's wrestled through like herniated disc and different neck injuries, but because of that crowd, he's wrestled over 4,000 matches in his career. That can really make the difference. In that 10 minutes you're out there, 15, 20 minutes, nothing hurts because you've got all
No,
those people basically like pushing you almost like a wave almost.
I think of it kind of like I don't know how much of an anime fan you are.
I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Like 20 years ago in school.
So
I know
in
about it,
Dragon
yeah.
Ball in Dragon Ball when Goku asks for the Spirit Bomb,
Yep, I remember that.
it's almost what it feels like to me is when I'm out there, I'm controlling the Spirit Bomb from everyone else in the crowd, basically, and that's what kind of drives me more and more to either get myself better or put on a heck of a show if win or lose.
So it sounds to me that Mr. Taft felt some of that reaction then this past the danger zone then, no?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fair enough. Here. I will get to comments. I really want to dive a little more into your journey before I come back to the current tense in DBW. I
Yeah.
want people to follow DBW out there, DBW Wrestling, Dominating Breakout Wrestling on YouTube, where you can watch Danger Zone, World War, all the great shows, and Dominating Backyard Wrestling on Facebook. Please join and support this company. We're going to have more coverage coming up here real soon with DBW, I promise you. And we love DBW. And it's also local for me because I'm in New York, they're in Maryland. But, I always want to ask this question to wrestlers I have on the first time. Who were some of the wrestlers that influenced you?
So that's a funny thing because as much as people ask me, I go through a bunch of wrestlers, and um, one of them, and I don't do the moves often, but he was one of the big inspirations that I watch a lot. Eddie Guerrero.
You know what's funny you said that because I'm doing this 5 years, and I would say I've interviewed. Somebody can check it. Xena, go check the tape and count for me. I've probably interviewed 500, 600, 700 wrestlers in my career, and I would tell you the number one influence doesn't matter if it's in the UK, doesn't matter if it's in underground, semi-pro, backyard, independent, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Taylor Swift, and a bag of chips. The number one influence I've heard is Eddie Guerrero. Just shows you my humor. Shows you I've been working on that.
But it's the work ethic that Eddie had.
Absolutely.
It was from the work ethic that he had was what drives me to do what I do today. No matter what I do in the ring, no matter what I do, it's that work ethic of putting everything out there for the fans to see, but also giving more than what you can.
Oh,
to
Eddie
allow
did
the
that
fans.
and some. I mean, you want to talk about the things that Eddie did? I mean, I watched him in WCW, I watched him in ECW, and I watched him in WWE, and God rest his soul. What he did in terms of just the different things, the shrewd abilities that he had. I mean, he was so versatile. He wasn't just this, Mexican wrestler that could wrestle with the mask or wrestle a 60-minute match. I mean, look at the versatility in his character. I think that that's
Yeah,
why Eddie is so revered by really so many wrestlers I've had on it in my 5-year career.
yeah. And a lot of other inspirations is probably a lot of typical answers, but Vader,
Yeah.
Bam Bam,
Bam Bam's a local guy, New Jersey. Obviously, the Beast from the East, Asbury Park. Sure, Bam Bam Bigelow, absolutely. God rest
and
his soul.
a very big one. I would probably the big two, Umaga,
God rest his soul. Yep, Umaga. And obviously, yesterday,
and
and I think yesterday was the anniversary that Umaga won the
yeah,
Intercontinental title. So there you go.
yes, and Yokozuna.
Yoko's another one. Yoko's. In fact, I have a funny. Before I get to more comments, I do have one funny Yoko, maybe not so funny Yokozuna story. I actually do have an old trading card from the WWF ice cream bars. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I still remember as a kid. This had to have been 1998 or 99, and they were
Hmm.
selling still the WWF ice cream bars, and I happened to actually buy one. And I still have the trading card of Yokozuna in perfect condition. So I actually still have it.
Wow.
Yeah, I have Yokozuna and I have Razor Ramon. The Razor Ramon one, I got that one a few years earlier because he was still in WWF, but I actually
Hmm.
have a Yokozuna and Razor Ramon WWF ice cream bar trading card. Because
Yeah.
when you used to get those growing up, they were great because you would actually kind of like almost like if you were a baseball card collector, Tops would give you like a piece of bubble gum with the cards. With the ice cream
You would
bars,
you would try and trade them to what your favorite wrestler
correct.
was.
And the ice cream bars had trading cards. So I collected the
Exactly.
trading cards religiously. So I had all the
Hmm.
WWF, I had the WCW cards, I played the game. So that's my Yokozuna story. But let
Yeah.
me come back to the current tense because people want to talk to you, and especially Mr. Jackson Sabre. Tex, I come to you as probably the only one who will tell you how it is. You are no doubt a future world champion. But as long as you align yourself with piggybackers and moochers, you'll never see it. Graves acts as if he has your best interest at heart. But what do you think he'll do when you can't get him to where he wants to be? Wrestling is a dog eat dog world. Make sure you don't become the prey. And who has been saying, sir, on this show over the past several months and frankly through my entire career, wrestling is a dog eat dog world. That tells you that Jackson Sabre listens to Tom Bryce because I have been saying long, over and over and over, wrestling is a dog eat dog world. But what is your reaction to that? Because a lot of people in DBW, there are some, maybe even many in the locker room that feel that the likes of Corey Graves, Robert Pearson, and Jacob Cassidy very well could be leeching off you to get themselves some much needed wins.
There's no comment on that.
No comment?
We all have respect for each other, and there's no leeching off of each other. We all have each other's backs. Yeah, I don't go out for most of Chaos's matches, but that's because I know they have it. That's because I know how well they are in the ring. I go out for certain one of Corey's matches because I know what he can do in the ring. They all don't come out with me for all my matches. Corey only comes out for some of my matches. Like we all have respect for each other to where we don't come out for all of our matches together. We all are one. Yes, we are all one collective unit. However, we have that respect for each other where we don't come out for our matches because we know we have each other's backs if it needs to be. And everyone saw that whenever I came out to help in that fight at the end of episode 8.
Correct. Now, I would certainly agree with that, where obviously everything had to be broken up between Graves and Taft. But, you can't. Okay, I'll give you that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I got a lot more comments on this, and I'm going to get to Mr. Graves and I'm going to get to other people in a second. But you can't deny the fact, though, that Robert Pearson and Mr. Cassidy, and on top of that, Corey Graves, before or even during aligning themselves with you, sir, they haven't had a lot of success this year. Chaos Conspiracy has not been able to get past the Stompers. Mr. Graves, before what you did to Mr. Taft, he had not won a match this entire calendar year in 2023. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and that's what the record book states, that Chaos Conspiracy and Corey Graves, before aligning themselves with you, I mean, they would basically be seen as losers almost.
Well, well, do you? Okay, yes. However, yes, they might be leeching off me, and if they are, they take a little bit here and there.
Right.
However, with that, there's some take and there's some gain with this.
What do
They
you
take a
mean?
little bit off of me. They get to help me get better and improve in the ring also. Because they
Hmm.
have a lot more experience than what I do.
True. I would say yes. I would certainly say in the case of Mr. Graves, he has been to the promised land. He has been a champion. Do you ask him a lot about his experiences as a champion? Is that what you're telling us here? That you ask a lot about his time in WCW? Do you talk with him about that at all?
I ask him a lot about what in the past he definitely doesn't want to have happen again. Like with the Dawn's March, with a lot of stuff that happened with that, he doesn't want that to happen again.
Right.
So like when he's paired up with me, he doesn't see me as a meal ticket like he did with the Dawn's March. He sees me as a what he sees getting me more comfortable in the ring, but also improving himself, but also improving me.
Has he learned then from his past, you think?
Definitely. I think he has definitely seen the light with me, um, being there for him and having his back in these fights. And you even see when I was out there for him, like, at the beginning of the match for him and Taft.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I it was a I quit match. I could do whatever I wanted to. I decided to try and take the cheap shot, and I paid the price for it. But but after that, Corey sensed that I wasn't out there. He took that aggression up. That's kind of something that he has kind of learned from me, was the aggression. When to turn that aggression up and when to turn it back down to let yourself kind of rest up for that big moment again.
Okay, I mean, you know what? Okay, I hadn't thought of it that way, and I think that those are some certainly valid points. And if you want to follow Big Tex, you can do that here on a number of platforms, including Instagram, YouTube. It's Stone Cold 4215, and on Twitter at Wildman Cold. He has definitely proven to be a wild man on Sportswire Radio, and he's very comfortable in the fire. He is definitely jumping into the fire, as Metallica on their first album, Kill 'Em All, famously had. So we'll see though if Big Tex will kill them all like James, Lars, Kirk, and then at the time, obviously, certainly their late great bass player. But obviously, I'm gonna not get into Metallica and talk more about certainly Big Tex. But obviously here, somebody says you got the loudest fans, no doubt. We'll certainly see about that. Obviously, Cliff Burton was who
Oh,
was
I will attest to that. I I don't know how it happened, but I always get the loudest reactions. I
The
don't know
fan,
where it
no,
comes from.
I think it's the size, the larger than life persona. I think it's kind of that almost attraction. Big men in this sport, I see it all the time. We have the Big Cheese Logan, who's the tribal cheese in the UK. The fans go absolutely nuts for him. We've seen it in the past here on Sportswire when it comes to the likes of Joel Cobra and the modern day mafia. The fans just go apes over them. You see it with certain big men in this sport. But Mr. Graves wants to say point blank, it's malarkey, baloney, heresy, and dare I say filthy. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Graves, before I get back into this, if you want to state your case on SportsWire, the door is definitely open here. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that in a number of different ways, because I'm on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. You might have my Facebook page at SportsWire Radio, or my personal account, or through sportswireradio.org. And if you want to state why It is malarkey. It is baloney. It is heresy. Dare I say filthery? We'll give you the opportunity here live. But let me get to some more comments here. All I know is, Tex, you need to stay on the bottom of the roster where you belong. Graves has been your saving grace. So conversely, though, Judgment's saying that it's Graves that's actually carrying you rather than the other way around, huh?
Judgment. Come on. Come on. You of all people are riding on the backs of the heretics right now.
But Divinity looks like
Without them, you wouldn't be holding that title. Without the heretics beating up your son in the middle of that match, you wouldn't be holding that world title. Your son would be. So you're riding on the back of the heretics. And Cyrus, before you comment, you're riding on the back of all three of them. So don't even get started.
He did. I guess you were a prophet, huh? I guess you were a prophet. You knew that once Judgment comes, that Cyrus comes, huh?
It's like a package deal at this point. If one shows up, the other one's going to show up.
I guess then real quick, on a lighter note, not a fan of the Yu-Gi-Oh looking photo there, Mr. Judgment, because it's got a very Yu-Gi-Oh vibe to it. If you were a Yu-Gi-Oh player, it's got a very Yu-Gi-Oh vibe there.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of like a dragon or something, like a fire wizard or something.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually did growing up. I actually did play quite a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's why I'm Yu-Gi-Oh. But speaking of individuals, they want to say I love you, Tex. I will not say who this individual is, but they certainly say that they are a fan of yours, and we appreciate that. We also have you want to say something about that individual, or you want to say anything? Or I can leave it out. We'll go back to Mr. Graves if you want. You speak no more? Okay.
I already know who that was, and sir, you are one of the people that helped me get into this roster. So I will expect that.
I'll say this about that person who might be or maybe knows that individual who you may speak about. For that individual, congratulations on the football season, by the way. Just wanted to point that out there for the individual.
Yes, congrats.
That was certainly.
I take my hat to you on that one.
That was a good transition. You certainly could be a commentator. You've definitely got that background. I could see it. Actually, this is good. This is good. I see the background there. Maybe they can use you calling BBW matches. Maybe that when you're done, because they could certainly use some commentary on some of these matches. That's a whole
definitely
thing. I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble for this. But Mr. Graves wants to say that was funny. I see this as me sharing 10+ years of experience with someone that I saw potential in before anyone else in DBW. I approached Tex at his first show and told him that he has endless potential. Now, is that true?
Honestly, yes. Graves did approach me. He saw me. We talked after the Rumble, and he saw a lot of potential in me. We kind of worked some things out to where it would blurring the lines here a little bit.
Okay.
But it was kind of where we blurred it to where it was me versus him, to where I would beat him. Whether I won by count out. But it was after that where we kind of started the mutual respect for each other. Like, okay, he knows that I am the future here, that I have the potential to be a champion no matter what. And he has helped me tremendously. And I cannot thank him enough for giving wisdom for what he's been experiencing here in DBW. But not only that, but also sharing what he knows about a lot of the opponents to come and who to watch out for, stuff like that.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a rather interesting take there. Very, very interesting. And certainly Mr. Corey Graves does have a lot of experience, and I certainly could see some of those things. Mr. Judge would like to say, excuse me, I'm the DBW World Champion, the final boss. And he does say that he still plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Wow. You know what? I mean, I have my deck still. I actually still have it, but I haven't played in probably about 10 years.
I have a couple made already, so.
Yeah. I haven't played.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
I have a whole robot deck and I have a whole dinosaur deck ready to
Oh
go.
wow,
So
okay. I do know the dinosaur decks very well. Yeah, I just unfortunately I haven't played in so
yeah,
long because well, I just haven't. But
of
Mr.
course.
Cyrus wants to say riding coattails. Ha ha ha! Not even close. As last time I checked, I easily am dominating on my own accord as your global champion. Your comment was absolute garbage, filth indeed. So certainly strong words from Cyrus. But I wanted to ask you, going back to the Stompers, that we spoke a little bit about the Stompers and Mr. T3. They've formed High Power. So you obviously then see things differently on how they've been going about things of late in DBW, but they have
Yeah.
had success, and especially in the Stompers case. I mean, the Stompers have
Yes.
had more. The Stompers have had more success than Corey Graves. I think it's a fair statement, at least in recent memory. They've been champions here this calendar year. I mean, wouldn't you
Yeah.
think though that they have a good sense of what to do? And if they're maybe telling you here on this show about watching Mr. Graves, do you take that sort of and maybe take that to heart, or you just say, you know what, they're just trying to get ahead and they're kind of seeing you as a threat? What do you say to that?
I see them seeing me as a threat because they know, and they've been in the ring with me. They know what I am. I am a very hard man to put down. I am a very
I've watched you
big
in the
man
ring.
to
I've seen
put
you
down.
quite a bit on DBW TV. No question. I will certainly give you that, sir.
I A lot of people have trouble getting me down, and that's what I want. I am that dominant big man that everyone has always looked for. Everyone wants that one man, that one big man to come into their company, be this dominant force.
But
Well,
yes, but in DBW, there's a lot of big men right now. You've got Azriel. You've got certainly Jackson Sabre, who's trying to make the rounds. I mean, Judgment, okay, he's in a
yes,
different league, fine. But I mean, how do you be able then to kind of rise above or tower over these big men? I mean, certainly these are names that they've had to. Because I'll even throw out there Roland Havoc. I mean, Roland Havoc certainly was the World Extreme Champion. He's a big man. I
yes,
mean,
and
these guys are big. I mean, how do you,
yes.
you know?
Besides Roland, if you listen to this, you are my drinking buddy, and I owe you a beer.
Well, I
Um,
would wonder. The two of you must certainly, I would say, must drink up the entire bar, huh? The two of you alone could just drink the entire bar, huh?
but besides Roland, Azriel, yes, big man. Jackson Saber, big man. Besides me and Roland, those two have one thing in common. They're both bad. They both are on the bad side of what the people want. Me and Roland, we are on the side for the fans. That's why the fans get behind us because we're there to not only put on a show, but we're there to put the show out for them and for everyone else in the DBW universe. We have the fans so we can put on the show. Yes, we became the fan favorites, and we can't help that. People side with the men, people side with the big guys that they know are going to be stars. The crowd resonates to the people that they know are stars. I will take, for example, here LA Knight.
Yes, the Yeah movement. Yep, and he's from Maryland, by the way, local guy.
Yes, I will take, for example, LA Knight. That man was getting ready to be fired
Yep.
before this whole thing. And now he is the megastar that he wants to be.
Oh, I would say right now he's probably selling the most merchandise of any wrestler right now in the world.
5 months running, he's sold the most merch.
There you go. I mean, listen, this was a guy that basically, if you looked at his career, he would be the definition of what's called a late bloomer. Sure, he was in TNA. Sure, he had a career for sure. But in terms of just where he is as a top draw,
So,
this is, yep, go
so
ahead.
with you being a WCW fan,
Mhm.
I'm going to compare kind of like that is.
I know where you're going
I
with this,
kind of
guy.
see LA Knight as a WWE version of DDP.
I knew you were going right then. By the way, DDP also a Jersey guy. I knew you were going with that because DDP was this guy that, if you think about it, was a manager. He was kind of somebody that, he really was kind of looked at as almost not a punchline, but kind of like to the side. And all of a sudden, he goes out there and reinvents himself, and he becomes arguably the biggest good guy in WCW for about 2 himself to winning a few world titles, and LA Knight very well could have that same story. So I'll give you that.
Exactly.
You definitely come well prepared, and that's why we're having a great time with the one and only Big Tex himself, the big man of DBW. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. We're hanging out here for about 20 or 30 more minutes here with Big Tex. And again, if you were on Sportswire Radio, check us out anytime on YouTube, past, present, and future shows. And also, please support DBW, dominating backyard wrestling. Also on YouTube, dominating breakout wrestling, DBW wrestling. And coming up here, I believe next week, we're going to have on a guy that could probably take my shoes, take over my microphone, and probably do a better job than me, Mr. DVG. He's coming live to Sportswire.
Oh,
He's coming live. So I guess if you don't like the job I'm doing, I could just turn it over to him, right? I'm sure he'll do a better job, and maybe he'll get more people to watch and listen. So he's going to come here live on Sportswire Radio. So we're certainly excited about that. We're certainly looking forward to speaking about him and his journey and, everything else that he's up to. So that'll be a rather interesting interview. I'm sure he'll certainly critique some of the different things that, we'll have, and that'll be on next Saturday. That'll be 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So 9:30 next Saturday, Mr. DVG will be live here on Sportswire Radio. But right now we are live with Mr. Big Tex. So Big Tex, I got to ask you, and we have more comments, but I want to ask you, what are your goals then in DBW?
yeah. So for me, as a lot of people may not know, I'm there to not only gain knowledge from a lot of people that have worked this industry for years, but also get a better understanding of the business. Would I like to win championship gold? Yes, that is a goal of mine. However, it's improving myself, improving what I can do in the ring, getting better and better every time I get between those ropes into that squared circle, and basically make myself a well-known wrestler.
That's interesting. I think you kind of summed up what most people should want to do, and I think that that's why we're looking forward to seeing the future of you here. And also, Jackson says, I as well partake in Yu-Gi-Oh! Full Blackwing and branded players. Something tells me here in the locker room, one of these days, we're all of a sudden going to break out a duel. I challenge you to a duel.
Oh, we have... The funny thing is, we have talked about this for months on end.
You really have. What a small world.
We talk we talk a lot, and it's this most random group chat in the world. It's just nothing but Yu-Gi-Oh.
Wow.
And we have all talked before about getting together a night, either in a hotel or something, or meeting at a house or something, and just playing Yu-Gi-Oh for an entire day or so, like a round robin tournament of Yu-Gi-Oh.
So interesting, Big Tex, and I want to say hello to my guest coming up Saturday night in a second, but it's so interesting because what I've learned today, it's not about, who's wrestled this and who's wrestled that. Tuesday, earlier in the show, which would be now Wednesday UK time, I had Dean Allmark on, and Dean Allmark talked about all these British wrestlers playing Fortnite together, and we learned today that DBW wrestlers, including yourself and others, partake in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels. So, it's kind of like, what a small world. I didn't learn so much about who's fooling who.
A lot of people don't realize how, and you would know personally, Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes a lot of strategy playing.
Oh, look, you know what? The time when I was playing it growing up, the time that I put into that game and the money that I spent, it was like, for me to be an okay player, it was a lot.
But if you compare the two, wrestling and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are very much the same in comparison.
Coordination, mental, technique. Regimen, routine. Yeah, some of those things I could.
But it's not only that; it's memorizing. Okay, I could do this with this card, and then into this card, and then into this card. It's all about memory.
Yeah,
it's all about It's all about pattern rhythmization for myself, and that's what a lot of a lot of wrestlers that I've met, a lot of them play cards. Like it's just
Oh,
something
that
that they
was
do.
always listen. I that was always where guys. If you watched all the old WWE documentaries, guys that were
Yeah.
on the road 200-300 days a year, what were they doing? Guys who get to the hotel and they get to the building early because you have to check in and kind of get ready for your
Hmm.
show and your matches. Guys would sit there and just play cards all day. They'd sit there and play card, and so that was kind of
Yeah.
always a known thing in wrestling. That you guys get to the building early because you have to get there. I think by 1 o'clock for an 8 o'clock. Let's say Raw's at 8 or SmackDown's at 8. You have to check in by 1. So if you're getting there by 1 o'clock, you've got hours upon hours where you're doing absolutely nothing. So what do you do to pass the time? You play cards.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I do it based out of not doing it in the locker room, but like whenever I'm bored or something, I'll just grab like a deck of cards or something and I'll start
Yep.
like kind of flipping through it. Kind of like, okay, here's what's here's what my next guess is gonna be. Like
Gotcha.
I
Now,
try and
listen,
guess what the next card is gonna be based on how many times that
yep.
I've done it.
I actually used to love doing that, although I really wasn't a great card player, but I used to always try to mimic Jack Nicholson's character in the old Batman movie, kind of flipping the cards,
Yes.
and I always did that here. And I see we do have one thing in common is that you're a Mountain Dew drinker like me. So I do appreciate the fact that you are a
Yes.
huge, although the lovely Xena tells me certain things about Mountain Dew, but I don't listen to her because she
Yeah.
doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know. She's clearly got
Yeah.
bad taste anyway in talking to me. So what does she know? But I do want to say hello to my guest coming up Saturday night. I believe it's either 9 o'clock Eastern time or 8 o'clock Eastern time, who's in Resurrection Pro Wrestling out there in Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. D'Angelo LaFlame. I want to say hello to you, D'Angelo. I'm looking forward to speaking with you Saturday on the show. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in here for the last 15 or 20 minutes with, of course, Mr. Big
Mhm.
Tex, the self-proclaimed big man of DBW. You have more shows ahead of you. So I kind of wanted to ask you then, obviously, as we're getting toward the end of the show here in DBW, do you want to say anything in particular to, let's say, anybody in the locker room or anybody watching DBW is kind of maybe some of your final thoughts and such?
For me, for anyone in that locker room,
Yeah.
you know I'm not hard to find. If we want to fight, we can fight. I have no problem stepping between those ropes and putting putting together a fight that'll last 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't care. I have no problem doing that. You want to come? You want to face me? Just be prepared for a world of hurt. Tat
Ooh.
has Thomas Tat has already experienced that. I have no problem doing it to other people. Just fair warn. I'm not a man to be played with. You want to get in my way, I'm going to squash. I'm going to squash you. I have no problem who it is. You're bigger than me, smaller than me, or whatever. I'm going to run through you because I want to prove myself here in DBW. I don't care who it is.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. Interesting comments there. Certainly, I guess we'll have to see the future in DBW. And we have a lot more to come before the season closes. So maybe you end the season with momentum. Maybe you go into 2024 with the ability to maybe, go out there and maybe potentially get some gold and acquire it. And obviously, Mr. Snow conversely calls you a coward. I mean, are you a coward?
I'm not a coward.
No?
People have seen me. I'm willing to go out and fight. I'm not a coward. People don't understand. There's a method to my madness at some points. Take a quote from someone, I forget who it is. There's a method. I honestly, my mind blanks on some of my quotes.
Sure, sure.
There's a method to a madness, and when that method is played out correctly, it leads to success.
Hmm. Interesting. And kind of piggybacking off that, Mr. Graves wants to tell us that there's still an event on the horizon that can give endless opportunities. The year isn't over yet. They do say that in 26 days, you can accomplish a lot. And there's a lot more DBW ahead before the season closes. So, you know what? 26 days is kind of like a lifetime. You know, the old analogy in politics is 24 hours is a lifetime. We've got 26 days left until the year is out. So
Yeah.
that means 26 days has to be like, I guess, 10 generations or something like that, because times 10,
Well,
24
for me being 26 with
Okay.
one more event on the horizon, it's one more thing to cap off my 20, my last year of being 26, my last month of being 26. Just that dot, just something that will put the nail in the coffin for myself to establish myself. And the next year, I work my way to where I need to be at with
So,
being.
so overall, then, how do you feel this year is going in your first real year in wrestling? How do you feel that this year is going for you?
For me, I still think there's still some room for improvement for myself. I'm not gonna lie to myself. I'm still rusty on a few things. I'm still very new to a couple things that I still need to work on. And I'm going to keep working on that during the off season, whatever. I'm going to continue that. That is something that in my mind is something that is entirely going to be worked on no matter what. Whether it's with people, whether it's by myself, whatever. It's always working on getting myself better no matter what I do.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, obviously, we'll certainly see what happens here. And Mr. Snow also wants to say then drop the dead weights and come to the dark side. You'll realize soon how better off you are, which is exactly what I did. And a lot of people are going to continue to still say chaos conspiracy, Corey Graves, dead weight. And they're going to continue to say, you've told us your side of the story. We respect it. But there are going to be people that will continue to say these things, and including somebody that you know very well.
I'm, yeah. For me, though, it's not losing dead weight. It's helping a former veteran, former and a new up and coming tag team find themselves to where they need to be to get either gold back or win their first set of gold.
Okay, well, you know what? We're going to certainly find out. And Mr. Graves says, watch who you're talking to. We'll have to find out. So I have to ask you before we get into closing thoughts and such. You said before, it was 7:30 and I was getting nervous for this. So overall, how did you feel about this experience? Are the nerves finally wiped away now that you've been here for an hour and 20 plus minutes? How was the overall experience tonight on Sportswire Radio worldwide with yours truly?
For me, this was honestly a dream come true now. I never really got to tell people, besides the people that are close to me, my whole experience basically getting into this business. And for people now to finally hear what it was like for me growing up, what I went through, what I did to get myself into that ring, I think people will fully, truly understand that I didn't just do it on purpose. I did it to learn behind the scenes without being in the ring for so long.
Interesting. I think that's an interesting thought because some people say, well, I got to go out there, I got to go out and do it. And you kind of waited in the shadows and kind of bided your time. That's kind of an interesting way to do it. And, I think so far it certainly is working to your advantage. And I think that obviously we can certainly expect a lot more from you coming up, certainly when it comes to our friends at DBW. And I want people to follow them here. Again, on Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling, YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, where they have close to 500 subscribers, and on Twitter at DBW Wrestling. Also, we'll see Thursday night Thunder Punch shows coming up. Obviously, we'll see episodes 10, and we'll certainly see, I believe, one more premium show before the season's out. So certainly stay tuned to DBW social medias for more information. If you want to check us out anytime, past, present, and future Sportswire radio shows, you can do that here on our YouTube page. And also, you can check us out on our new website, which is sportswireradio.org, and the ticker below, and also our blog as well at Tumblr Sports Wire Radio. So as we're coming toward the end of the show, I mean, do you want to address anybody else? Do you have any final words before I formally ask your closing thoughts? Is there anything else that you would like to get off your chest here, sir, Mr.
So,
Big Man of DBW? Go ahead.
so I know a lot of people have asked, and I know you personally asked me about my past.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I love to hear about
How I so a lot of I didn't mention a lot of things, but I want you to. So this is a lot of people. A lot of people know the answer, especially ones that are close to me.
it. Okay.
So this is a question for Sportswire.
Okay.
I so I came up with a name a long time ago, um, for my character for myself. Big Tex was a nickname for myself at one point.
Mhm.
I actually did have another ring name for myself, um, and that name was actually Colt Lee. I and a lot of people wouldn't know this, but I am a very avid video gamer.
I kind of seen it from your YouTube page because we can check you out at certainly,
Yes,
your Stone Cold
I
Thirds.
am a very avid video gamer, and myself personally, I am a very big 2K WWE gamer.
Okay.
So I came up with the idea for my wrestling character through the 2K games.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of us now wrestlers started our journey through the video game itself.
Oh.
So I can give you a couple more examples here.
Sure.
Over in Malta, over near Italy, there's a guy that I know personally. His name is Ron Buster. He started off in the games. Over here in the U.S., two people, one person you might know, Kid Bandit.
Yes, I definitely know Kid Bandit. Yes, in fact, I actually have a connection to Kid Bandit. I'm
Yes,
pretty sure.
Kid Bandit started off like I did in the 2K games.
Yes, and Kid Bandit, if I'm not mistaken, trained with somebody that I personally, Ishmael Vaughn, and Ishmael Vaughn went to the Nightmare Factory with the time when Cody Rhodes was running it. So, yep, I know Kid Bandit very
Yes,
well. Yes.
and another one, one that I would personally love for you to have on here is Robert Martyr.
Okay.
The South City Stretcher. I've known Robert Martyr for a couple years.
Anybody you recommend, certainly, let me know off the air. I'll be certainly willing
Yeah,
to hear.
definitely. I would love for you to listen to Robert's story.
Okay.
He is someone who trained at a very young age. He started training at around 14, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not
Okay.
wrong
I
on
know
that.
a couple of
But I'll
people
let
that
him
have
tell his
trained with you.
story.
I love to hear
But
it.
he is definitely someone who he is someone who, like Drew earlier today, has wrestled some big names. Brian Keith, Daniel Garcia, Minoru Suzuki,
Yes, sure.
um, Kevin Blackwood, stuff like people like that. Like he's wrestled a bunch of these guys, and I've known him for years. And we started off doing me and him doing a wrestling show on WWE. Both of us commentating on the show.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
So,
That's pretty
so
wild.
yeah, a lot of us have this background with the WWE games, and that's where a lot of us got our whole starts from. And a lot of people are now starting to realize that the video game 2K community is a lot of wrestling fans that want to get into the business.
Yeah, because you know what? Listen, growing up, I'm a little bit older than you. There was no thought of, hey, we're gonna have a community. We're going to have a live chat. We're going to have all these different things. It was basically like, okay, if you want to be a wrestler, you were going to pay thousands of dollars, which most people didn't have. And for me to ask my parents at the time, 20 years ago, to say, "Hey, can you give me $3,000 or $4,000 to go to a wrestling school?" They were going to say, I'm sure you could imagine what they were going to say. And then there was none of this kind of like you could create your own character, make your own kind of wrestling personality persona through all these different
Mhm.
things, whether it's through role playing, whether it's through these 2K leagues, whatever it might be. So it's a totally different world, and there is more ways to get involved in wrestling that we didn't, have if you're, let's say, 30 and up. You didn't have those things 20 years ago. It was basically like, again, either you went to a
No,
school or that was it. You didn't get involved. So I think that's really unique that you have that story, sir.
and I notice it a lot more with a lot of the newer people that come in to the wrestling business. It's that whole thing. Like I got my start with the games, and I started off with this character, and then it moved to this character, and that's kind of how I felt when I fell in love with the character, and
I think it's
so
very unique.
it's
I think it's unique. Go ahead.
and I love that people are starting to realize that we are not just there to play the games. We're there to, I would say, sadness study, but also kind of be there so we know, kind of like we're not the whole internet wrestling community. Basically, is what I want to say. We're the different side of it. We're
Well, I
the
think listen, I think that the internet wrestling community, it gets a bad rap for a certain small firing squad, you might want to say, on Twitter
yes,
that says certain things, but I think by and large, wrestling fans are some of the most dedicated, passionate, and most knowledgeable people around. And the majority of, like anything else, the majority of the people really are respectful. They really love this sport. They believe in it. They follow it like
yes,
nothing else. And I think what you did here is certainly a prime example of that. And what you've been able to do in your journey, I think, shows why 2024 is going to be a huge year for Big Tex. He's the big man of DBW. But 2023, there's still a lot left on around the corner. We're going to see you coming up in Thursday Night Thunder Punch episode shows coming up. And our last premium DBW show. Stay tuned to DBW's social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for more information. And subscribe to the YouTube page of DBW because we are closing in on 3,500 subscribers. So make sure you check out Big Tex. You make sure you check out Corey Graves, Chaos Conspiracy, The Stompers, T3, Jackson Saber, anybody else out there in the locker room that always comes on this show. And I'll have more DBW coverage with Mr. DVG himself coming up next Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So be there or be square here on all Sportswire radio platforms. I could ask you a lot of questions, but you're a big man. You're probably
yes.
getting angry. You're probably getting ready to, do some beatings, and certainly want to go and beat up some of these people that have come on here. So before I get you all further, I was kind of joking. Before I kind of get you further, I've been trying to work on my humor these past few weeks on Sportswire. It seems to work.
Oh yeah,
It seems to work because people more and more seem to want to come on Sportswire. So it seems like the humor is working. So people seem to like it. Maybe they want to poke fun at me. I don't know. But the point is, obviously, we don't want to get you further enraged because we want to see people on the DBW platforms get a chance to watch you firsthand. So it has obviously been a tremendous honor to have you. I hope to have you more here in the
yes.
future coming up in 2024. I certainly think that this first time you've been on here has been a resounding success. And I'm looking forward to many more appearances of you here on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, as I get ready to celebrate my 5-year anniversary. But until then, I want to give you the floor, sir. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. I turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
For me, it's more of a thank you to the DBW universe, the DBW fans for
The fans of
allowing
DBW
myself.
are so special. The DBW fans, just real quick, what they've done for this company, think about this journey that DBW has gone. DBW went from a company that, frankly was this backyard wrestling company and, had no following. It was from a handful of people to where
Mhm.
DBW now is having live music. They're having 30 plus people on the roster, people like yourself, and DBW's on the path of being essentially a professional wrestling company. I don't consider DBW like some other places that come on Sportswire. No disrespect to them, but DBW, the DBW fans, I think, are the greatest fans in the world, hands down.
Oh, definitely. But for me, the fans, the universe, the fans that tune into the live shows
Absolutely.
on YouTube, the
Thousands and
fans that
thousands of views every show. Every show, the DBW fans,
yes,
it's just they cannot get enough of DBW.
the fans that comment after the live streams during in the comment section, like we and myself appreciate what you guys do for us. If it wasn't for you guys, we would be performing in an empty building.
You'd be
We'd
still
be
in the
performing.
backyard. You'd be on trampolines.
We'd be
Where
yes,
it was.
exactly. We'd be doing absolutely just backyard stuff. We'd be on trampolines, stuff like that. And I can't thank them enough. I can't thank DBW management for allowing me to come in. I've I said so many thank yous to DBW management for giving me the opportunity to come in. They didn't have to do that for me. They could have said, no, we don't want you right now. Come back again some other time and stuff like that. No, they allowed me to stay. They allowed me to be there to do some other stuff for them other than wrestle. And I appreciate that. I truly do. Because if it wasn't for them, I don't know where the journey would have taken me. I probably would have sat at home and done absolutely nothing after that. After some stuff happened in the past, who knows?
But you know what? The old analogy is a rising tide lifts all boats, and the DBW universe has lifted not only your boat, but almost everybody on that roster. And that's why DBW is a place that thousands and thousands of people watch every single show. And it doesn't matter what's done in DBW. That's why DBW is a place that went from where it was to where it is and where it will be in a matter of time. And that's why I want people to follow DBW on Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling, YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, and on Twitter at DBW Wrestling. And if you have not followed the big man of DBW, I would highly encourage you do so, or else you will face his wrath. You can do that on Instagram and YouTube at Stone Cold 4215 and on Twitter at Wildman Colt. In fact, I'm going to give him a follow on Twitter right after we're off the air so I can see what he's up to and everything else he is doing. And certainly he is going to be just like DBW, going into bigger and better things. We'll see if that continues. I'm looking forward to watching you here on Thursday Night Thunder Punch. I'm looking forward to watching you in more DBW shows. Certainly, you've given your side of the story to the likes of the Stompers and Jackson Sabre and Mr. T3 and even Jackson Snow and everybody else that's tuned in for or against and everything else in between. But I want to congratulate you on all of your success. I want to congratulate you on overcoming your fears and your obstacles. You are definitely a man that I think we're all proud of. We're all going to be proud of seeing where you go further on this journey. And don't be a stranger. Happy holidays. Can't wait to watch you on YouTube. And thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to have round 2 with you, sir, in 2024.
Definitely, I will be around. Who knows? Maybe some gold. Who knows? I definitely will come back on. We'll talk about some other stuff. We'll talk about what happened, and who knows? Maybe we'll talk some wrestling history also
We'll talk
because I
whatever
am
you
a
want.
big.
I mean, listen, you
I
can
love,
talk
I love, I love talking old wrestling. I'm a big old wrestler fan. Old ECW, old WCW stuff.
Well, I listen, growing up, I actually got it. I had the VHSs. I mean, I'm not that old, but I remember as a little kid getting the VHSs from ECW, and I watched WCW. I still have my WCW Tops trading cards at the WCW Monday Nitro. I still have the set. I actually have the entire set in mint condition. So, I mean, I have Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I have Bret the Hitman Hart in there, Goldberg. I have all those different wrestlers, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair. So, yeah, we can definitely do that. Listen, you're a big man. You're welcome anytime. You name the place. You pick the date and time. I'll make it happen. I got plenty of free time right now in the evenings. I don't want to go outside right now in 30-degree weather. I'd rather sit here and talk to the Sportswire radio fans who've continued to allow me, after nearly 5 years, to have an audience, and obviously talking with a big man like yourself. So you pick the date and time. We'll make it happen. It could be now, next week, could be 2024. You let me know, and I'll make it
Yes.
happen, sir. All right?
Yes.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You want to say something else? You can say anything you want. You want to say one more thing?
No. Um, all I can say is to everyone that has known me from the past and now is a big thank you. A lot of you guys pushed me to be who I am today. So I can't, I've said it before, and I've said it the whole time that I've been on here. I can't thank people enough to give me an opportunity like this.
Well, you know what? You're proving why that you deserve that opportunity. You earned it, and I have no doubt that you're going to certainly prove a lot more people right, wrong, everything else in between, because I have no doubt you're going to be a huge part of things in DBW in the future. And congratulations on overcoming those fears. Congratulations on proving the haters wrong. And congratulations also, though, on proving the people that believed in you that they were right as well. So thank you for letting us share your story. Definitely, anytime you want to come on, you pick the date and time. We'll make it happen. Happy holidays, and can't wait to watch you on DBW platforms.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the big man of DBW, Mr. Big Tex. And Big Tex was here to talk about his journey, what he's up to right now currently in DBW, and plus the future of Big Tex and his new buddy, Corey Graves, and some here. If you want to follow Big Tex, you can do that on Instagram and YouTube at StoneCold4215 and Twitter at Wildman Colt. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. Again, if you're a DBW fan, next Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Mr. DVG, he'll be talking all things related to his journey, plus who knows what else is on his mind. And if you're on sportswireradio.org, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled program, and I'll be back here tomorrow, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, with Blackheart, the play-by-play man of XCW. Also Friday, Jimmy Controversy, 4:30 p.m. That's going to be a real treat. Jimmy Controversy's here, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can catch that here on all Sportswire Radio platforms, including sportswireradio.org, YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams. And I want to thank everybody here tuning in. I also want to say hello and goodbye one more time to the lovely Z and everything else out here, and a bag of chips. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Thank you to the DBW universe once